I'm Dr. Stephen Howard from the University of Wollongong and Early Start Research Institute here in Australia. And what I'll do today is I want to take you through the Early Years Toolbox that we've developed. We created the Early Years Toolbox because we wanted to develop assessments of young children's emerging abilities. Researchers told us that there are a number of abilities early in life that predict a whole range of later outcomes, from school readiness, literacy, numeracy, to social and emotional competence. So we created the Early Years Toolbox as an important advance on existing measures. The Early Years Toolbox has 6 different measures in it, 6 different apps. One of them is visual spatial working memory, which is how many different spatial locations can we hold in mind at any one time. That's our Mr. Ant task. We also have a phonological working memory task, which is how much auditory information can we remember at any one time. That's our Not This task. We have an inhibition task, which is our ability to overcome urges or behaviors that we need to override. That's our Go No Go or Fish and Shark task. We have a shifting task, which is our ability to flexibly move our attention from one thing to the next. That's our card sorting task. We have an expressive vocabulary task, which is our ability to produce words to characterize different images. If I see a picture, can I produce the word that labels that picture? And we have an educator and parent report measure of self-regulation and social development. We developed the Early Years Toolbox to represent some important advances over existing measures. For one, we wanted them to be brief, engaging, and game-like environments. Each one takes only about 5 minutes to complete and was illustrated by a children's book writer and illustrator. The apps provide audio and visual instructions and dynamic feedback to children so that the task is administered in the same way each and every time. We aim to minimize the literacy and numeracy demands as much as we could so that there was less impact of prior learning and experience. We sought to ensure that there was simple responding so that we could harness the power of technology, but that we weren't introducing effects of technological expertise. In fact, the way that you respond in these games is much the same way as you'd respond if you were using a piece of paper. We wanted them to be portable, so that meant that there wasn't a lot of equipment to carry around, and in fact you didn't need something like a broadband or a wireless internet connection to use them. You can use these offline, and the only equipment that you require is the iPad itself. We also wanted to ensure ease of access. You don't need to seek approvals to get access to these measures, but instead you can freely download them from the iTunes App Store anytime you want. It's a free download, just search EYT on the App Store. We've recently established norms for each of these measures, derived from more than 1,700 preschoolers and kindergarten-aged children, from which researchers can benchmark their own studies. This helps to facilitate international or national comparisons, as well as across age comparisons. Each of the apps is self-contained to ensure consistency of administration, as well as broad access by a wide range of users: researchers, educators, parents. The role of the data collector then is to ensure sufficient engagement and motivation without overhelping. The aim is to capture the child's best possible performance, but that this performance is their own. Like any assessment, we want to see what the child can achieve independently. We'll talk more about how to avoid overhelping in the specific app videos that follow. In terms of ordering and timing, we always aim for no more than 15 minutes. So if we're using the full toolbox, we tend to split this into 2 15-minute sessions, making sure that we split each of the working memory tasks so there's one in each of those sessions. We created each of the apps for easy data collection. There are a number of different options or ways that you can get access to that data. If your preference is to use a database, the apps can submit data straight to a user-defined database, and we've provided some sample source code to help you develop this. We've also provided the contact of our own database developer who can create a database from the model he created for us. If your preference is to get the data by email, specify that in the I menu, and you can get the results sent to a user-specified email address. Or if the apps are only being used for brief screening or assessment purposes, you can use the score that's provided on the end screen. However, we'd caution that this score is derived from unprocessed data, so we'd not advise using this score for more formalized assessment or research purposes. Thank you for your interest in the Early Years Toolbox. We hope you have as much fun using it as we had developing it and using it ourselves.